Good morning, everyone. Welcome to an all-new edition of Artsbeat TV and radio here on Westfield Community Programming, Channel 15, 89.5 FM WSKB, and our media partners at Southwick Community Programming and Agawa Media. I'm your host, Mark Auerbach, and I'm real thrilled today to have Paul Lambert from the Springfield Symphony Orchestra join me this morning to talk about their concert tomorrow night. It's called Fearless Women, and it's going to introduce Springfield music audiences to some really good music by women composers, along with a Prokofiev classic. It's good to see you, Paul.
Nice to see you, Mark. Thanks for having me.
You guys have been having a great new 2023 so far. The Audacity of Hope concert, followed by the New Orleans style pops. It's been a good couple of months.
Absolutely. They were both beautiful concerts. We've talked about this, in a bit. And I'm always excited when we have new music and different kinds of music that we present to our audiences. But it was just kind of thrilling, the last couple of concerts, the energy in the room, the electricity you felt in Symphony Hall. We love to remind people that while there's all kinds of ways to get music into your life these days, from at home, Spotify, all kinds of ways to do it, there's something very special about being in the room where the live music happens. And you could really feel it with both Audacity of Hope and our Mardi Gras concert. There was something very special happening at Symphony Hall those nights. And we were thrilled to have really wonderful audience participation and growth. And at the same time, just really a special joy to coming together for those beautiful concerts.
You said something that's real important in the fact that, you can listen to music on a home stereo system or Spotify or whatever, and
Yep.
you can hear some really fine recordings of good music. But when you sit in a concert hall and it's live and there's that energy that goes back and forth from the musicians to the people in the audience and back and forth, you cannot replicate that in the same way that through the pandemic, when people were watching streaming of theater. Theater's great when you stream it from theaters all over the country, but there's something electric about being in an audience.
Absolutely. I used to feel that way back in my theater days, way many years ago, before stumbling into basketball 30 whatever years ago. And at the Cape Playhouse, I used to think about that very special experience that it's unique to that night, that audience, that orchestra in this case, or that theater group in those days, coming together for that unique experience of that performance that can never quite be captured or duplicated. You might have, if in the theater, you might have another show the next night with the same cast, but it's a different audience. There's something slightly different in the air. It's a unique performance that night, which might be wonderful, it might be better, it might be whatever, different, but it's unique to that experience of that night. And I really feel that when you come to these concerts, there's something unique that happens in Symphony Hall. There's an electricity, there's something different. It's very special coming to be live in the room where the magic happens, I think. So
Yeah, and there's sometimes for me, I'll go to a symphony concert and actually feel chills of excitement. And I think it was when the Springfield Symphony did the overture to Candide many years ago, and I sat there and I was really transported because I knew the piece of music. It was a theater piece of music, sort of, but symphony orchestras often open their seasons or opened a concert with it. And I had never heard it live. I had only heard it on recording.
Yeah.
And it was just, I felt like chills in the same way when I go to the theater and I see a show-stopping number. During the holidays, I went with a friend of mine to see Some Like It Hot on Broadway. And the title song dance number, it just was electrifying. And you cannot have that experience watching something on the screen.
Absolutely. You were just playing into this segment here. You had Ain't Misbehavin' playing. I did Ain't Misbehavin' many years ago with Andre DeShields and some of the great original cast members, and hearing that music brings back that memory of, oh my goodness, you'd be watching the live performance of these unbelievable artists, and something very special in the back of your neck. You'd feel it, and it was just this electricity. And I feel the same thing, of course, when we get together at the Springfield Symphony Orchestra, and the music comes off the stage in that beautiful hall, that beautiful old hall, which has such great acoustics. It hits you in a different way being live in the room. So I'm hoping folks come and join us, not just for Fearless Women, which of course I hope they do, but for many concerts to come, because something special is happening, and I hope we can continue to embrace that.
You've embraced different music this season, or at least the last couple of concerts, taking the pops out of it, but music of African American composers and women composers that just aren't heard enough in the concert stage. Was this conscious, or did it just sort of happen?
Oh no, absolutely conscious, absolutely deliberate. I mean, there's all kinds of beautiful music in the classical genre that we all know and love, and I in no way would want to minimize how much I love listening to Mozart or Beethoven or Mendelssohn or Schubert, whatever, including some of the more well-known 20th century composers. But I think there's this wonderful repertoire of music that has not been performed as often, and certainly can be introduced to our audiences in new ways. There's clearly been a lot of work and a lot of thought over the years. You've been probably part of it, Mark, as the SSO has tried to figure out, how do we attract new audiences? How do we reach out to more diverse audiences? How do we do the work in our community to bring new folks to hear this beautiful symphony, this gift that we have in Springfield of having a live symphony orchestra? How do we bring new folks in to listen? Part of that clearly is trying different types of music, showcasing different diverse forms of music to other traditions, to other audiences that might say, huh, I didn't even know that existed, or why should I go? Oh, that's why I should go and check this out. There's something fresh there. Let's go see. And I think that's part of the electricity we're doing, especially with the remarkable guest conductors we've had coming in, including our pops conductors. Again, they've brought a vitality and a vibrancy to what we're trying to do with the choice of this new repertoire pieces that I think is part of the excitement you're feeling right now at the SSO.
Yeah, I mean it's happening in other orchestras around the country, but Springfield really is way ahead of the game of some of the others.
Isn't that nice to see
Yeah.
that the SSO
You
would
know
be
what?
ahead of the game?
What's kind of
Yeah,
interesting, the Metropolitan Opera just
yeah,
announced its upcoming season in New
yeah.
York. And one of the operas on it is Anthony Davis's The Life and Times of Malcolm X, brand new work for the Met. Well, when I worked at the symphony several decades ago, Anthony Davis had the Springfield Symphony do a preview concert of it. It was in Symphony Hall.
Hmm.
Um, it was probably the first time the symphony had performed opera on its repertoire, although the symphony in those days brought in the New York City Opera's touring company.
Huh.
And it was a very unique thing. And when it was done, it was a very difficult show to work and to market and everything else. And somebody in the orchestra on the board said to me, well, you think that's going to go anywhere? And I said, I don't know. And 40 years later, or whatever, 30 years later, it's
Yeah.
finally making its way to the Met. And that puts Springfield in its day being kind of a unique and innovative orchestra.
Absolutely. And it's part of that, as we carve out a niche for ourselves in the symphonic world, but also in the artistic world here in the Valley and throughout our region. It's wonderful if the SSO can carve out a niche for itself as being somewhat innovative or a bit daring at times to showcase different forms of music without, of course, ever taking our eye off the beautiful historic music that we love to feature and that a big part of our audience loves to hear. I'm part of that. Yeah, you're part of that. We all love to hear those beautiful, if I never want to stop I don't want to let any of that go. But at the same time, I think we have room in our season, if we plan this properly, to showcase other traditions of music, some pieces in the collective repertoire that's just not performed enough. And happily, we've been able to feature on some of those for the last couple of concerts.
So let's talk about Fearless Women for a second.
Yeah.
What are some of the pieces of music on it? And then let's talk about the other two that follow.
Absolutely. Well, of course, first, as you know, our guest conductor coming in for Fearless Women is an old friend, gentleman you know well, Mark Russell Smith, who was the music director in the SSO decades ago, has been a good friend to us even since we came out of the pandemic, and is coming back to conduct this concert. And we're thrilled to have Mark come back once again and bring his dynamic leadership and performance skills to the stage at Symphony Hall. And Mark has helped work with us. With Joan Tower, we're starting with a fanfare for the Uncommon Woman. So we're featuring that again. It's a beautiful piece. I'm thrilled. You mentioned the Audacity of Hope concert that we had in January featuring African American composers. And we featured a piano concerto by Florence Price, which was just stunning. And I'm very excited about the fact we have another selection from Florence Price's repertoire in the Fearless Women concert. She's this composer who was largely under the radar for so many years and is suddenly blossoming. You see Florence Price being played all around the country in different places as people say, oh my goodness, look at the music this woman wrote, that for years and years and years, as an African-American woman classical composer just trying to get noticed by anybody, she struggled in her lifetime. And now happily there's a chance to feature a lot of her work. And we're doing a beautiful small symphony, Symphony Number 3 by Louis Ferenc, a French composer that I think our audience, I would be interested to know if any of our audience has heard this piece before, but it's a beautiful symphony written in the 19th century by a woman composer who was overcoming many obstacles in her day, even to write the symphony, let alone to get it performed somewhere. So I'm very excited about the fact that we're doing those three pieces. And I think people will love the Ferenc Symphony when they hear it. It's really beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful piece. It has, pieces like a bit of Mendelssohn or Schubert or Berlioz, some of the other composers of the era that she was writing in, kind of reflect through it or bounce through it to my unsophisticated ear. And I'm a guy who worked in basketball for 30 years. What do I know? But I do love it, and it's a beautiful piece, and I'm really excited about the fact that we're going to do that piece. And of course, as you mentioned, we're also doing a Prokofiev Piano Concerto, which is a stunning piece of music to hear and to undertake, with a brilliant young pianist, Wei Luo, coming in to play with us. And she's another fearless woman to take it on. I mean, I don't know how you take on it. I'm going to learn that piano concerto to play in front of real human beings, but man, it's fearless, and I'm really excited about the chance to perform that in front of our audiences.
And we should probably interject here that for tickets, I assume there's lots of tickets for tomorrow night, and people can get them at springfieldsymphony.org. Go online, or can they just show up at the door?
They can. We always have some rush tickets or some tickets available at the door, but they can also call our box office. Annie will be there right up until a couple of hours before the concert at 413-733-2291. She'd be happy to help anybody if they want to ask her or pick a particular seat or location or whatever. And we do hope people come and embrace it. And that's part of the big pitch here, Mark, is to see, we're trying these new things. We're trying to stretch and to reach out. We hope folks understand that. It is quite deliberate, and we hope that folks will come out to support Fearless Women and all the work that we're trying to do here at the SSO with these beautiful concerts and to help us not just stay alive right now, but to build a sustainable future for this beautiful symphony.
I got to ask you, I mean, most people go to the theater and they want to sit front row center. But
Right.
when you go to hear symphonic music, front row isn't always the place to be. Where's your where's your favorite place in Symphony Hall?
I have many. I think I told you when we first met that I sat for 17 years in the loge, which is actually the side where the kind of boxes are close to the stage, because I took my mom to the symphony for 17 years with me until she passed. And my mom was a little tiny Hungarian lady, and she could see from there. So we sat in the loge and looked down at the violas and the cellos and the basses from our vantage point. And I came to love how it sounded there. I'll tell you, the grand tier, that first balcony, is stunning acoustically in Symphony Hall. And having done a whole series of basketball Hall of Fame enshrinement events, right in that sweet spot in the middle of the orchestra on the first level also is stunning acoustically as you move back a little bit from the stage into that middle section of the orchestra is very good acoustics, but that grand tier is really very special as well. And even up to the second balcony, if you have the strength and the willingness to climb up there, which we appreciate when folks do, the acoustics are very, very solid up there as well.
Several years ago, they started a program at the Symphony where you would get your program notes done by text, and they decided that the second balcony would be the area you could go. It probably took me a week to climb up there. And I was exhausted when I got up there. But I got to say that the acoustics up there were fantastic.
Yeah, no, Symphony Hall is a jewel. I had a gentleman who had, I was, I'm thrilled when we get positive responses. Everyone, our small but mighty team is working so hard here to make this all work. And we're thrilled when we get positive feedback from people. And a gentleman in the middle of the Mardi Gras concert at intermission, I was in the lobby, jumped out of the line. He and his wife were going to buy a beverage of some sort. And he said, I've lived here all my life. I've never been in this building before. I've never been to the 74. We saw your commercials. We thought, let's check it out. And he said, it's a gem. This place is a gem. This orchestra is a gem. We'll be back. We'll be back. This is wonderful. And I thought, that's what it's all about. If we can get people in again to Symphony Hall to hear the live performance, to hear the beautiful acoustics we have in that building, in that very special old building, that happens to be another part of the special quality that is downtown Springfield, with the gift that is the Springfield Symphony Orchestra. It's really special. I hope that people will come out and check it out. Come join us.
Well, we're going to take a quick break to acknowledge our underwriters, and we'll be back more and talk about all the good things the Springfield Symphony is doing. Peter Coles is our chief engineer. I'm Mark Auerbach, and we'll return in just a moment.
Underwriting support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce, the voice of business for the Greater Westfield communities. Informing, educating, advocating, the Chamber provides opportunities for members to make meaningful connections on local, regional, and state levels. For more information on the Chamber's many events, workshops, and programs, as well as the benefits of membership, visit westfieldbiz.org. The Chamber focuses on the most important economy, yours.
Hi, this is Harry Rock, host of Rock on Westfield every fourth Wednesday at 8 a.m. Tune in for my view of this place I call home.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back to Artsbeat, everyone. If you've missed a part of today's program or want to watch it again or share it with friends, it's archived on YouTube under WSKB Community Radio. My guest this half hour, Paul Lambert from the Springfield Symphony Orchestra, who gave us a really great description of the concert tomorrow night called Fearless Women, but it's not the last concert of the season. There are a couple of more. So, Paul, what's coming this spring?
Yeah, in middle of April 15th, just in time for the tax season rolling through. We have Madness and Mystery, a beautiful concert that Chan Ung, a local conductor, is going to come in and conduct for us. Beautiful concert featuring Benjamin Britten and Elgar's Enigma Variations. And another piano concerto, a Rachmaninoff piano concerto that I think many people will recognize and really enjoy coming in to hear. Stunning. We've had such
and Tian is coming to Artsbeat in a couple of weeks to talk about not only that, but he is one of the most exciting musicians in the Valley who has an international reputation and known for doing new work and all of that. And it's great that I guess this is his Springfield Symphony Orchestra debut.
Exactly right. He had been associated with us in some ways as a young conductor on the way up, learning and watching and being part of it. But we're thrilled to have him come join us. He is such an innovative and bright gentleman. And it's just, we think and the fact that he's local and someone we can call upon to come join us here in Springfield, it's really it's a great gift for us to have him come join us. And we're thrilled to have him. And I'm delighted you're going to talk with him. He's such a bright, remarkable gentleman that I'm sure that interview will be fascinating to listen to. And then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Continue.
I was going to say in May 13th, Saturday, May 13th, we'll wrap up our season with Beauty Amid Chaos. Theodore Kuchar coming in to conduct a remarkable story. Mr. Kuchar is born in the States, but of Ukrainian parents, and has had deep roots in Ukraine. The concert will feature it has Sibelius's Symphony No. 2 as one of the signature pieces. They'll also have a cello concerto by a Ukrainian composer, Thomas de Hartmann, that we're really looking forward to. It's kind of a chance for us to embrace the Ukrainian situation to Mr. Kuchar, who has deep roots and conducts in happier times in Ukraine. The Kyiv Orchestra will be coming to Springfield for the first time. He's one of the great conductors in the world, recognized by many people as one of the top 10 living conductors working globally. So we're really honored to have him come join us, and we're very excited about the chance to do some, we think, point some attention to the ongoing tragedy and human suffering that is going on in that part of the world, and to celebrate the beautiful music tradition of Ukraine, as well as this beautiful piece by Sibelius that I happen to love, the Sibelius Symphony No. 2. It's really going to be a very special evening to wrap out our season. At that time, of course, we'll have announced our next season already by that point, and season tickets will be on sale, and tickets will be on sale. So we're hoping people not only come out to these concerts, but start to say, you know what, we should make the Springfield Symphony part of our lives here, and let's do this to bring life to downtown Springfield and make sure that we're supporting this beautiful orchestra and doing our collective part to build our community and have life return in full flower.
Do you ever get the opportunity to talk to other orchestra managers around the country?
I've had several conversations with the folks who run the Hartford Symphony. And since I've landed here, of course, I was here really on the fly, as you know, as an interim, putting pieces together and trying to get some concerts staged and this season staged, and putting a staff together and really rebuilding the organization. Now that I've landed here on a more permanent basis for a while, I'm certainly going to be doing more outreach to talk to folks. This is a very challenging time for this industry. There's no doubt about that. Just like the theater, as we're, the hope that people return in big numbers to come back to the live theater. The same stress points are there for the symphonic orchestras around the country. A lot of places, pops orchestras and symphonic orchestras are really holding their breath and putting themselves out there, hoping that as we come out of the pandemic, and the knowledge that a lot of folks spent 2 years getting cozy at home and maybe either aged out of going out a lot at night or finding different ways to bring audiences back to a live performance. So we're looking at all that as we put our season together for next year. We're discussing whether we should try a matinee or two to try to do some things to bring people who might now be more comfortable not driving at night, bring in different audiences. We had our wonderful Holiday Pops concert in December, and we had a great crowd, a great turnout. But at the same time, looking up at the audience, I knew that if we'd had that concert start a couple of hours earlier, we would have drawn some more folks who might have brought in some younger children or some older folks who might not want to drive at night, who would be more comfortable coming a little earlier to that concert. So we're looking at those things and trying to see.
It's a challenge for the music industry. It's a challenge for the theaters.
That's right.
And the beat that I cover, all the administrators are saying, we all grew up and got trained in an era where you automatically bought a subscription to a season, and you invested your money in 8 shows or 4 shows or 6 or whatever, and you planned in advance, and it was on your calendar that you were going that date. And post-pandemic, people wait till the very last minute to decide if they're going to do something. So all of a sudden you have competition in the weather, or something else comes up, or things like that. And so everybody seems to be concerned in the performing arts of how do you get the audience in and get them to commit to more than one show.
I love, as you can imagine, Mark, I love subscribers. I love people who take the chance and will make that commitment. The Cape Playhouse, when I ran it for 7 years, we lived on a subscription audience at that beautiful old theater. And we have a wonderful group, a hearty group of a core group of subscribers for the SSO. I'm hoping, of course, a few more folks will take a chance and buy a subscription with us. And I think it's a wonderful investment to show support for the Springfield Symphony Orchestra. And at the same time, if, we're happy to exchange tickets, we'll build in all the protections that one would want if something happens and you can't come to a particular performance. But it also, as you know, if you have that subscription and for some reason you discover, oh my gosh, that March date doesn't work for me, what a great chance to give them as a gift to somebody to come
I
in.
was going to say, when I go to performances, whether it's a Springfield Symphony or I went to covered a theater opening a couple of weeks ago, and there were lots of empty seats, and the theater is heavily subscribed. And I wish that subscribers, if they couldn't attend and didn't have the opportunity to exchange their tickets, that there would be a program in place that those tickets could go to the kids at the community music school or in Springfield or Northampton or Westfield, and those tickets could get used. So if you do make a commitment to attend as a subscriber and you can't use the tickets, please don't throw them away.
No, we also have, we innovated a program this year that we call Beethoven's Buddies, which specifically is garnered to have folks make donations to the SSO for us to buy tickets for young people of modest means who might not be able to attend. We have young people coming from the community music school. We have people coming, from those other organizations throughout the city where they might never have a chance to go to a symphony concert or a pops concert even without someone else offering them a ticket. We're talking about ways to incorporate that same exact what you're talking about into Beethoven's Buddies. So if someone says, I can't use my tickets, let me donate them into that pool. And for a very few dollars, we find we can stretch those dollars a long way to bring people in. And we might even have a few dollars to then provide a van or something else to get those folks to to Symphony Hall for that concert. So we're trying to be as innovative as we can. We want people to come in. I never want people, especially young people, not to come to a concert because they couldn't afford a ticket. So we're going to find ways to stretch those dollars. And anyone out there who's listening who might like to donate to Beethoven's Buddies, we'd be very grateful for any support we can do. It's a great way to show support for the SSO and at the same time help us build audiences for the future.
Okay, and for tickets and all that, give us all the ways people can find information about the Springfield Symphony.
Absolutely. The first thing is to go to our website, as you mentioned earlier, springfieldsymphony.org. There's all kinds of information there about the orchestra and about our symphony and how to get tickets for our upcoming concerts and promotions, and information about our guest conductors and guest artists coming into play. And at the same time, they're always welcome to call our box office, 413-733-2291. Again, 733-2291. Annie's there and she'll be happy to help you and take you through the very simple process. You can buy tickets online at home. You can buy tickets through us at the box office. We've tried to make this as simple as we could to find ways to buy tickets, and we're always happy to help you. If it's any problems or questions come up, if the process is new to you, give us a call. We'll be happy to help, and we really do appreciate the wonderful support we've been getting from our audiences coming in greater numbers all the time, and the real excitement that we're feeling at Symphony Hall.
One last question for you, Paul. You have a long experience working in professional theater and basketball, and then you come to the Springfield Symphony Orchestra. What has been the big aha moment for you in the time since you've been made executive director where you go, I didn't know it worked like that? Is there something that
just every day I'm learning something, of course. I think one of the overwhelming strong things for me is the brilliance of the conductors, the intelligence of these guest conductors we've had coming in who carry this vast knowledge of music and things in their head. And our musicians share so many of those qualities. They live this. They've spent decades of their life perfecting this thing. I worked with basketball players, of course, who had that passion. And if you talk to Michael Jordan, you talk to Kobe Bryant or Larry Bird, the passion that they put into perfecting that craft to become great basketball players or coaches. I'm discovering that same, not just same kind of passion, but that same kind of remarkable commitment and dedication to this craft of music that these folks then carry with them, this knowledge, and you talk to them and they are so willing to share that what they carry in their hearts and their heads and why they love this piece of music or how they were moved by such and such, or they heard this violin play or whatever, or this flute passage or whatever, and they have all this knowledge and the remarkable life stories of these people coming from small towns and backgrounds, many of folks who didn't come from musical families, who fell in love with this and discovered they loved playing the oboe, at a young age. I love those stories, and that's moved me a great deal, and I look forward to sharing those stories with many people as we continue to grow and put ourselves together, because I think they're very moving and very exciting, and that's I guess the thing that's really moved me the most.
That's terrific. Paul Lambert, Springfield Symphony, thanks for being here this morning. I hope the concert tomorrow is a success and the other two that follow, and people can learn more about the Springfield Symphony at springfieldsymphony.org.
Thanks again, Mark. I really appreciate the coverage.
Be well. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back with more Artsbeat. Peter Coles is our chief engineer, so don't go away.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield. Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday, every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio
89.5 WSKB.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back to Artsbeat, everyone. I'm Mark Auerbach. Peter Coles is our chief engineer today. If you've missed a part of today's program or you want to watch it again or share it with your friends, it's archived on YouTube under WSKB Community Radio. And next up is one of my favorite guests of all times, Rorianne Schrade from the Sevenars concerts. And when I think about Sevenars, I think about the summer, and we're only maybe 10 weeks away from summer. It can't come quick enough. It's good to see you, Rorianne.
It's great to see you, Mark.
You have announced a really fantastic 2023 season, which is the 55th, if I've done my homework right. I'm not a mathematician, but I think it's the 55th season.
Yes, it is, and we're very excited. We've extended it to 7 concerts this year for the 55th. And I can't wait to share them. I just keep going over each one in my mind and thinking, wow, this is a beautiful season.
Well, I looked at the season, and it's on your website, and people can find it at Sevenars, SEVENARS.org, as we talk along. But there are a couple of things. First of all, you've got an all Rachmaninoff concert that you are going to be performing and recite. It's been a while since you've done a full program, right?
Thank you, Mark. A couple audience members said, actually more than a couple, said, since you've been running it, you haven't played as often. When my mom was running it, I played just about every year a solo recital. So I kind of yielded to that. And on top of that, being the 150th anniversary of Rachmaninoff, that was an incentive to put together an all Rachmaninoff program. So I'm looking forward to that.
And then I know, because I do a lot of work with MOSO, the musicians of the Springfield Symphony Orchestra, they're making their Sevenars debut this summer with the MOSO Horn Trio, which just performed a couple of weeks ago in Westfield at the Athenaeum. And I know that they are adding a world premiere to the Sevenars program. They told me that they've commissioned a work, and that's all they've told me, that they've commissioned something new. So that's kind of cool. And the flautist Carol Winsank and the violist Ron Gorovic, who's also performs with MOSO in the Springfield Symphony.
Joy Klein-Finney, Rebecca Young, who's a New York Philharmonic Associate Principal Viola, and Sarah San Ambrosio, a cellist, a founding member of the Eroica Trio, with Judith Lynn Stillman. Liana Panieva is coming back. She was very much loved last year and reviewed wonderfully by Mark Moran of the In the Spotlight. So everyone wanted her back. We're so excited with Musso. They're playing a dream program, and the Brahms they're doing is on my bucket list, and also one of those pieces that if I left the earth hearing that, I would be a happy camper. It's such a
Can I tell you something? I'm admitting this on radio. I work with Mosso. I had never heard the Brahms Concerto live before. They did it in Westfield. What a great piece of music!
It is so noble, and this trio, yes. And we have, as you mentioned, Carol Wincense. She has been called Queen of the Flute. She's taught at Juilliard for 50 years, and virtually a whole generation, or maybe two, of great flutists have been mentored by her. So we're honored. They will play a work by Valerie Coleman, which they scheduled long before the Grammys, and now Valerie Coleman is a Grammy winner, so we're excited about that.
How long did it take you to put the season together?
Well, it's been in the works. It's a gradual process, so it's hard to say. We've had some last minute additions, and we wavered with Carol Wincense and Joy Klein Finney about whether to do a duo or a trio, but certain aspects were in place already. So
when you book the groups, like you book an artist like Ron or Carol, do you tell them what they should play, or do they come to you with an idea of what they'd like to do?
We perhaps reserve a tiny thimbleful of veto power if there's just something that won't play well at Sevenars. But we like them to have complete freedom, of course. And Ron Gorovich, who is doing all Bach suites originally for cello, now for viola, he just released on the Centaur label the complete set of suites, Bach suites. So that's a special sort of hallowed recital the week after the family one. And by the way, on the family one, just a quickie note that Christopher James and the Nell James, cello and piano, they will be playing at Carnegie Hall, Weil Hall, April 27th. So the family concert will be extra special with this duo having had their New York debut.
So is it a Sevenars event that they're doing at Carnegie Hall, or they're doing it on their own?
No, thank you for asking that. They actually are dedicating it to my late brother and my late sister, Randy and Robelyn, and donating the proceeds to Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center.
That's incredible. That is so good. And so when is that concert again?
April 27th.
At Carnegie Hall. So I guess if somebody wants to go and support Memorial Sloan Kettering and hear some great music, they can probably find it at the Carnegie Hall website.
You can. That's exactly right.
So when do you and I get to go to be at Carnegie Hall?
I'm waiting, Mark. I'm waiting. And why is this the only time we get to talk is when we're on this show?
Yeah. So a couple of things. The concerts are on Sundays at 4:00, and there's no tickets, right? People just come.
Just donation at the door, which is as it's always been. But when we suggest $20, it's for a ballpark for people say, what's a good donation? Well, that amount, if everyone donated 20 or more, that would certainly help defray expenses, because there's a lot of fundraising to pay for everything. This year, by the way, we're very grateful to have received 19 local cultural council grants from towns, some of them very, very small. I mean, when I say that, I don't mean to suggest that now we've won the lottery and are done. There's some very small ones, but we're just so grateful for the support from 19 towns, and also for a cultural facilities fund grant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which has enabled us to rebuild the foundation under the building. Not rebuild it, but support it.
Yeah, and last year when you were on, you were saying that there were a lot of repairs that you have to take on every year to maintain that old building.
Well, some years more than others, and last year was a biggie. And there's a little bit of continuing work. It's always the case, but what happened last year was very, very major. So that should keep us in good stead for a while.
And what happens to your piano when you're not performing? Is it safe at Sevenars in the winter?
Oh yes, very safe. Thank you. It cries a little bit for some playing, but thanks to our amazing technician, Richard Gordon Loomis, it's as if nothing has ever passed between performances. It's always
Richard Gordon Loomis bailed Moso out at the first Westfield Athenaeum concert of the season. When we arrived, the piano that had been tuned by the Athenaeum's piano tuner 2 weeks prior had been sitting in a cold, unheated area and needed massive tuning. And we discovered that at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when we all arrived to kind of warm up and rehearse. And it was an icy day, and Richard drove down in the ice to save us. He is a savior for pianists.
That sounds like Richard.
Yeah, so I was just curious because you board up the theater during the winter and or the concert hall during the winter months. So
not Liverpool in the winter, no.
Yeah,
but we check on it and make sure it's still okay. And thankfully, we also have amazingly wonderful neighbors who keep an eye on things and also help. I should always say, we're so lucky to have beautiful neighbors who help with the refreshments, and I would name them one by one, but I probably would never stop.
So you're of the siblings that are still with Sevenars, you're the one that organizes all the concerts and administers them.
Yes, that's been the case for a while. But it doesn't matter who does the work as long as it gets done. And another reason I haven't played this spring has been for me the 3 ABC form, the 1B3 form, the verification A, and exhibit E for the CFF grant, and it's a different world.
So in the non-summer months you're in New York, how often do you come back and forth to the Berkshires?
Oh, as often as possible. But I'm teaching, I'm reviewing, I'm playing, preparing to play. So the list goes on. Several hats.
So
sure.
My next question is, you're doing an all Rachmaninoff program to end the summer season. Have you played the Rachmaninoff pieces you're going to do before, or are you learning some of them from scratch?
Oh, that's an interesting question. A lot of them are old chestnuts for me. I wanted a mix of actual Rachmaninoff and Rachmaninoff transcriptions of other composers in case some people love Bach, Mussorgsky, Mendel, described in beautiful arrangements by Rachmaninoff. I've done a couple of them up there, but one special one is for my parents that I've just been learning. They played the waltz from Opus 17 suite for 2 pianos quite a lot at Sevenars. And this wonderful virtuoso named Leechkis arranged it for 1 piano. So it's kind of difficult because you're basically playing 2 pianos worth of material on 1 piano. But every time I play it, I think of them, and I can practically smell my mother's perfume and see my father smiling. So, and that's a special edition that's totally new. Wish me luck.
I'm going to wish you luck. And another question somebody had, when you do a solo recital like that, do you memorize all of the music or do you have it in front of you?
I memorize it all. It's probably a couple hundred pages of music. But you see, I did the sonata all through I'm doing the second sonata of Rachmaninoff. I did that a good bit through the 70s. I did it in New York once in the late 90s. Did I say 70s? 90s.
I was going to say 70s. I don't
know.
Yeah,
did
90s.
I
90s.
90s. No. In the 70s, I was a child. No, so in the 90s, I did it a good bit, and then I've done it at Sevenars, actually not that long ago, I think 2018, but that's 5 years.
So you've memorized all of this music, and you've done it before, or some of it. Does it stay in your head, or do you have to go back and rehearse it?
That's interesting. It's a gift in many ways to revisit an old piece because in many ways it's there, but we do grow up and change and evolve. And as Stephen Huff, I think, commented, I shouldn't attribute this to him, but there are challenges in revisiting older pieces. One is that you may have a completely different conception, and so you sort of have to undo before you do. But it's always a revelation. And traditionally, pianists who toured the world a lot in the early 1900s would tour with a couple programs over and over and over and over, and revisit them year after year. So we don't always have the luxury to do that, but I'm sticking with it.
No, I mean, I'm just curious because your thoughts on life change, your circumstances have changed from the last time you played it, your fingers may have changed, and all of that. And so each time must be different when you
It
perform
is.
it.
I mean, emotionally, the conception gets deeper and deeper and deeper. Sometimes, like not too long ago, I whacked my fourth finger in the kitchen. I basically refingered everything to avoid the fourth finger in the left hand. I hope I'll come out of that, but in a way, you have to stick with one finger.
And here's another question somebody asked me to ask you. What do you think about when you're performing? Is your mind totally immersed in the music, or are you thinking about, I've got to pick this up for dinner, I got to go to the cleaners and this and that?
Oh, unfortunately, that second scenario does happen. And I don't know why it is, but whenever I hit certain parts of certain pieces, I hear ding dong, and my students have decided to come 20 minutes early. So I actually associate certain parts of my music sometimes with the ting dong. So I've tried basically not to practice anywhere close to when a student is about to arrive. Um, yes, and you keep sort of an ear peeled for something sizzling too much in the kitchen. But you asked what you think of when you're playing. Hopefully, one gets lost in the spirit of the music. In a way, it happens to you. Then you but it's a little bit like driving because you sort of go with the flow. I'm not but at the same time you have to be alert to little things like this key is sticking, or a bee landed on my finger, I will try to swat it away during the rests. I know a clarinetist in New York who actually gestured with his clarinet to save someone's life in the audience because he saw someone having a heart attack.
Huh.
So, I mean, there's always some awareness of the audience, but we try to limit it, and we hope we get great audiences that are silent as could be. We really do get wonderful audiences.
Do you feel the energy of an audience? I mean, if you're performing the work, can you tell while you're performing that the audience is with you or drifting off?
Thank you for that question. Yes, sometimes, and that's why live music is so important, because one thing feeds the other. The audience is part of the performance in a way, because when you feel that, it's very mysterious. But when you feel that, you surrender in a new way to something that's happening to both you and the audience, and it's very, very special. Rachmaninoff himself, when he would play, supposedly would feel sometimes a little too much coughing and shuffling, and when he would be playing one of his own works, he would simply skip a variation. And there are notations in his music. Rachmaninoff occasionally skipped this variation. I wouldn't advise skipping those, but
So when you're learning the work, you must have the history of how that work came to be and the background of what Rachmaninoff might be thinking when he wrote it or what was happening during the time.
one tries to do that. Speaking of him, just in view of Russianness and various political things happening, Rachmaninoff escaped from the communist revolution and lived in the United States for from 1917 on, and actually became an American citizen. So I feel very, despite the fact that Russia wants to claim his remains and repatriate them, to me, he's American through and through, and he said very, very moving things about America. But yes, to follow his life is very, very interesting. It was a life of great suffering. I actually made a little compilation video of some great Sevenars performances of Rachmaninoff over the decades, and that is the reason that we're getting support from some towns, even on the coast, that are a little far from Worthington. We're doing a Rachmaninoff Zoom video presentation for cable access TV channels. And prior to each premiere airing, we will do a little Zoom, half-hour Zoom talk. So we did this last year with Schubert. We called it Sevenars Schubertiade, and it was wonderfully received. So we're doing the same this year with Rachmaninoff, talking about his life and his,
We're going to take a quick break to acknowledge our underwriters, but before we do, if you want information on the Sevenars series, you can find it online at sevenars.org. And I know that if you go to YouTube and you type in Rorianne Schrade, you have a channel on YouTube and you've played a couple of little snippets from things that are posted. So people can go check that out.
And Sevenars has its YouTube channel as well. I'm a little behind on backing that up, but yes.
We'll talk about that in a second. Peter Coles is our chief engineer, and we'll return after these messages.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Barnes & Noble College Bookstore in the Ely Campus Center, offering Westfield State t-shirts, sweatshirts, and gift merchandise, all of your academic needs, and offering textbook materials in new, used, ebook, and rental formats. Available at the bookstore on campus or online at westfieldstate.bncollege.com.
Underwriting is brought to you by Boise Cascade Distribution, providing products and services needed for building material dealers, home improvement centers, and industrial customers. They offer everything from engineered wood and plywood to Drex decking and railing, James Hardie siding, and Advantech subfloor. Located at 33 Fowler Street Extension in Westfield and on the web at bc.com, they are committed to providing quality products, great service, convenience, and value.
This is Ken Stomsky from Ken's Den on WCPC 15 and 89.5 FM, Tuesdays, 8 to 10.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back to Artsbeat, everyone. We're chatting with Rorianne Schrade from the Sevenars concerts. And in just a minute, we're going to end today's Artsbeat program. I found a tape of Rorianne playing the Kiss Waltz by Johann Strauss, which we'll end today's program with. But before we go, Rorianne, is there one concert this season that you're most excited about on the Sevenars series?
Heavens no, all of them. Obviously, there will be a little bit of, always the element of surprise for the family concert. I'm making a transcription for that to play with my niece. It's not quite finished yet. There are surprises. We always will cross fingers that everything works out with David returning across the ocean from New Zealand. But we expect David to be playing some Rachmaninoff, actually. And Linnell and Christopher will be playing some music, some that was on their program in New York, some that was not. So that has the always an element of surprise being the opening. Also, mysteries of the property as we rediscover what works and what doesn't work. But we hope for the very best.
And you're guaranteeing that every Sunday afternoon this summer during the Sevenars series, it's going to be no humidity and 72 degrees and the best place to be this summer.
Well, guess what? We did get the cooler repaired last year, so that should be up and running as well. It's a very cool place to be.
Terrific. Rorianne, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I hope we can get you on again this summer when Sevenars comes underway. People can learn about Sevenars at sevenars.org. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mark.
And that wraps up another Artsbeat. Stick around to the end of the hour because we're going to be playing, Rorianne's going to be playing some Strauss. We'll catch you next week with another edition of Artsbeat.